The UN's human rights chief has issued a report on Ethiopia's year-long war, saying it's been marked by extreme brutality. It comes as a joint investigation into alleged atrocities faulted all sides for committing abuses. The big numbers of violations are linked to Ethiopian forces and those from neighbouring Eritrea. This comes a day after Ethiopia declared a state of emergency over the situation in its Tigray region. Well, for more on this story, let's talk to William Davison. He's a senior analyst with the International Crisis Group. You've been following this conflict now, as we've been saying, it's been going on for a year. How would you characterise the conflict?
Well, I mean, I think the key thing to understand now is that actually the war is outside of Tigray region, primarily. Since July, the Tigray forces have been on the offensive into Amhara region. And indeed, they've been making significant gains. So this state of emergency that's been enacted, it's a national state of emergency. And it's really in response to the fact that since July, those Tigray forces have been on the offensive and now are really in a position to seriously threaten the federal government.
Okay. We mentioned Ethiopia's prime minister has expressed some, as he says, serious reservations about this UN report, claiming on the same hand, it does lay sinister allegations to rest. How do you think this is going to help or perhaps hinder the ongoing fighting?
The report itself, because everything is so contested and there's a huge amount of Tigrayan government leadership allegations against the role of the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission and their alleged bias here. So it's not the type of report that is really going to help establish a consensus. Instead, each party, as we've seen already, will take different parts of the report and use that to try and make the point that they've been right all along. So it really just plays into the politics of the situation, which is driving the conflict in some ways.
Briefly, if you can, how do you see or how do you envisage the end game for this? Because Ethiopia's prime minister has made it clear that he's not backing down.
No, absolutely. I mean, I should just say, of course, this report could lead to accountability processes and also actions by international actors. It's been watched very closely by European governments and the EU, for example. But in terms of the situation, we have a very dangerous situation with potentially escalatory dynamics here. The Tigray forces are pushing forward. In response, we've seen this very sweeping, draconian state of emergency by the authorities. All we've seen so far is a doubling down in terms of positions and all-out mobilization by Prime Minister Abiy and his allies to try and stem this advance from the Tigray forces. They are also allied with an Oromo nationalist rebel group. So a very dangerous situation. I think that what the international community is doing is the right thing, which is imploring all partners to take steps to try and turn this into some form of negotiations. But really at this stage, that means significant federal concessions in the face of this advance by the Tigray forces. And so far, the federal leadership has not been minded to make those concessions at all.